Hello everybody and thank you for joining me. This is Sierra from Sierra T Designs and today I have for you the second in my 12 weeks of Christmas series. So let's jump in. So as you can see here, I have cut down my cardstock. I have a black piece of cardstock and this plaid piece of cardstock, and I've put it into a embossing folder. Now this embossing folder, I couldn't find it, so I've linked a folder very similar to this one, but I couldn't find this exact one. Now you could get a similar look with many other folders, so it's not too big of a deal, and any folder you want. I just wanted some texture in the background. So I am using the Simon Says Stamp Little Gnome Wafer die, and I'm just going to put that through my Gemini Go. This is just the base. I'm going to cut the base, the nose, and the beard out of some Neenah Solar White cardstock, and then the other two pieces, the hat and the shirt, will be cut out of some Photoplay Kringle & Co. paper. And on the white pieces of cardstock, the nose and the beard, I am going to color it with some of my Copics. So on the nose there, I used E11, and on the beard, I'm going to use N0 and N1, which are just the neutral grays. I used those just to add a little bit of shading to the beard so that it had a little more dimension, so that it wasn't just a flat white beard, because of course it would have shadows, right? So. And my base and my mat and my panel that are on the other side there, they were cut down with some A2 stitched rectangle dies. I used the largest and the second largest to cut them out, because I really wanted the stitched border. Because this card is mostly paper piercing, and I'm sorry about my head being in the way, because this card is mostly paper piercing, or piecing, sorry, I really wanted a lot of texture and dimension. So I wanted the kind of stitch lines around the black mat and the plaid panel just to add a little bit of something extra. And excuse my head and my horrible hair. This was filmed a while ago, like pretty much when COVID had started, and you know, it was one of those things where I didn't really feel like doing anything with it, so it's a hot mess. But so please ignore my head. It's going to pop in a few times as I'm sticking things down, and then I should stop after that, but it does pop in a few times. So yeah, so this is the second in my Christmas series, and I really wanted to do something different. This is not my norm. As you guys know, if you've been here for a little while, this is not really a card that I would usually make, so this is a bit different for me, so I just really wanted to try to make something a bit out of my norm, because we have 12 Christmas cards going on, so we're going to do a few things that are just a bit different. And I did add a little mini action wobbler to the back of my gnome, just because I thought that would be a lot of fun. I'll show you it wiggling around here when we get to the end and I show you the card. So I did take a sentiment out of the Simon Says Stamp Gnome for the Holidays, and it's just ho ho ho, and it's like an outline. And I'm going to stamp it with my Candied Apple Distress Oxide ink, because I thought that matched the paper pretty well. And I am going to do a few things to this sentiment to kind of make it look layered. I was really going for a layered card here. So here's a bit of a trick for me when I cut sentiments to kind of make them straight. I like to line up the edge to, if you want a border of course, to the plastic piece in my trimmer. And that's kind of how I get an even border all around my sentiment, just because it can be difficult to eyeball. Now if you had a die, that would be perfect. But I don't have a die that's the exact size that I needed for this, and I really wanted to mat it. So you're going to see me here in one sec. I'm going to stick it down to this piece of black cardstock, which is the same cardstock that I used for the black mat under that plaid piece of cardstock. And I really wanted to kind of mat it and add this layered effect. So it was kind of tying it all together. So you're going to see here that I'm going to use some of my Nuvo Deluxe glue. And I'm going to stick this down on this black cardstock, and then I'm going to do the same lining up. So I'm going to line up the edges of my white sentiment to the piece of, like, the side of the plastic there, and that's how I'm going to trim the black mat, and that will give me the same thickness of an outline around it. Does that make sense? So that's kind of my trick for lining up sentiments if I'm not using a die. It doesn't always work. I mean, it's still me, and I'm not perfect by any means, so I do kind of have to fiddle with it a bit, but it's usually pretty much perfectly cut, so I really like to use that because I tend to enjoy, you know, perfect cuts, or as straight as possible anyway. They're not always straight, but. And I kind of felt like my sentiment needed a little bit extra, so I did take a Copic. This is R05, and I'm just going to color in the ho 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 letters with this Copic just to add a little bit more. I kind of felt like, because the background is so not busy, but there's a lot going on there, like with the patterning, that the outlines were just a little bit not bold enough for me, for how bold that outline or the background is. So I am going to color that all in just to make it stand out a little bit more against the plaid background, because there is a fair amount of red going on here, and just to differentiate it a bit, although the black matte on the sentiment does that. And you guys, if you've been with me for a minute, you know how much I love black mattes. I'm so bad for that. Like, well, not bad, I shouldn't say that, because it's not a bad thing. It's just my thing. So I am going to bring in my Nuvo Deluxe glue, and I'm going to glue everything down. So because this is a little bit of an older video, you're going to see that I'm struggling with this glue, because this is the same darn glue that I've been using. You know, recently I replaced it, but because I tend to make videos willy-nilly whenever I feel like it or something inspires me or whatnot. So sometimes I make videos and then they don't go up for a few months, because like I was making these Christmas cards a few months ago, and that wasn't really what I was making on my channel at the time. So you'll see that I have a couple of my Christmas cards are going to be a bit older. Well, I mean this year, but of course, but they're not like recently made videos. It's kind of funny. I have a tendency to sit down and pre-make a whole bunch of a whole bunch of videos, and then they'll go up whenever that kind of fits what we're doing in that season or in that time. So it's just kind of interesting to, so I'll look at my nails and be like, ooh, I haven't had those nails for, I don't know, 2 months or 3 months or however many months, right? So it's just kind of funny when I see them and start editing them. But yeah, I have a tendency to pre-make a bunch of videos, or not pre-make, just whenever I feel like making a card, I make a bunch of videos, and then sometimes I want to make Christmas cards, and sometimes I want to make, who knows, right? Am I the only person who does that? Like, I know some people kind of do everything last minute when it's required, whereas I'm always ahead of the game. If I have something due, I'm early, because I would panic if I was like last minute to get something done. So I tended to be early. So you're gonna see now that I'm gonna stick this down a little bit crooked. So I'm going to kind of play with it a little bit. I'm going to take it off screen because I put it near my face. And I did get it kind of straightened out, so that got fixed. And then I am going to glue the sentiment down, and I did kind of want it a little bit behind my gnome, just to kind of tie them in together as kind of the focal, like as one big focal. And then, because I could not resist, we're going to bring in a little bit of bling. Not a lot of bling, so I mean, if you stopped here, this could maybe be a masculine Christmas card. I don't know that it isn't a masculine Christmas card, even at the end, if that's such a thing, because I only added a few clear sequins, so it's not like I brought in huge amount of bling. But I just kind of wanted to tie it together, and I love going kind of crossways across the card to add my bling. I just think it looks so neat when you do that, because it kind of pulls the eye. So I like to do that. That's kind of how I roll. And I couldn't stop there. I also brought in a Jelly Roll pen, and I just added a little bit of highlighting. Not many places, just a little bit on the nose. It took me a minute to get the pen to work. A little bit on the beard, and a little bit on the hat. And that's kind of the extent of it. I didn't go too crazy with that. I just want a little bit everywhere. And I'm also going to bring in my Spectrum Noir glitter pen, and this is the clear glitter pen. And I'm just going to put it over the ho 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 in my sentiment, because I thought that just added a little bit of something extra. Now it's pretty subtle. I mean, I can see it in person pretty well, but on the card it's a bit difficult to see, like on the camera. So I'm going to bring up the card now and kind of try to show you it a bit better. I don't know if you can see it very well there. I mean, it looks pretty cool in person, but it doesn't really do it justice. So that is number 2. So, guys, we're going to have 10 more coming up. Every Monday I'll have a new Christmas card for you, and then a few other cards throughout the month. So if you enjoyed this card, I'd love to have you back. Please subscribe. Please leave me a comment. Leave me a like, and I will see you again soon. Thanks so much, guys. Bye-bye.